Everybody, today is International Translation Day, and I thought this would be a good occasion to talk about some of the translated books that I have been reading this year, two of which, so I've picked up three books. All of them are by Indian authors. The reason I've specifically chosen Indian authors is because in a country like ours, where there are 121 official languages and even more dialects, I think it's really, really important that we bridge the gap between multiple cultures through reading literature. I've always believed that that's possible, and within the same country this is a necessity. We've been seeing so much of intolerance and differences and riots because of differences. I think literature will help bridge that gap and make it more familiar, another culture more familiar to us. So the three books that I've picked up are all by Indian authors, and I read the English translations of the same. Now, when I say translations, they could be from one language to another, not necessarily into English. It's just that there is a wider audience for English, and I'm most comfortable reading in English, though I wish it were otherwise, and that's why I've picked up these particular books. So the first book that I'm going to talk about is one that I just finished reading this morning. This is Moustache by S. Hareesh. It is shortlisted for the JCB Prize 2020, and this is a book that has been undergoing a lot of controversy in Kerala. The author actually started writing this book as a series in one of the magazines, and he had to stop it. He withdrew the series because of the religious controversies behind it. Anyway, when you read the book, you will pick up on that controversy, though it's not really a point that is stressed upon. The book definitely does deal with caste distinctions and gender distinctions. It also deals with poverty, so financial class distinctions, and the one theme that really, really stood out for me is hunger. So from poverty, obviously hunger. So there are a lot of food references, and you can see how when I say poverty, you can see how through food, the author has brought out the class distinctions, the caste distinctions through food, and I think that has been done really, really well. So kudos for that. Now, the setting of the book is historically during the British era, and the physical setting, the geographical setting is what is known as Kuttanad in Kerala. So Kuttanad in Kerala is this beautiful waterscape with really fecund vegetation and flora and fauna. It's just nature at its best over there, and that is how it is portrayed to tourists, and that is how anybody who is not living over there would see it also, including me. I don't come from that region, though I am from Kerala. So for us, those of us who go there as tourists, this is a place of vast beauty and resources. But for people who are actually staying over there, if not in this era, in a different era, it would have been a difficult place to live in, because these are mostly marshlands and swamps. So any agriculture that took place was below sea level, and as opposed to the problem of not having water, these fields, agricultural fields, had to be drained every now and then so that paddy could be grown. It's incidentally also the rice bowl of Kerala. So there is a lot of agricultural reference in the book too. The other thing that stands out about the book is the genre that it's written in, what is called the fabulist genre, which is a subsect of magical realism. There are some really, really fantastic and fantasy kind of incidents, characters, animals in the book, and ghosts. So it adds to the quality of folklore, the quality of an oral narration that is being passed on. It adds to that. I do have a little bit of a problem with the translation itself. Jayashree Kalathil, who has done the translation, some of it kind of jars with you because they are really literal translations. Two phrases that stand out in my mind are this reference to, I think it's called precious God, 2 or 3 times in the novel, and this is actually a literal translation of the Malayalam phrase Ponuthamburan, which is referred to God. Here, Ponuthamburan actually means, it actually is translated as golden treasure, golden highness. Sorry, it actually means beloved one, loved one. That's how it actually means. The other thing that stood out for me is this idiomatic phrase where the author speaks about a character, where one character speaks about another character who dies, and he says he swallowed the conch. So this is again an idiomatic reference for somebody dying in reference to Shangavirini. I think that's the actual Malayalam phrase for it. Okay, so that is Moustache. I just finished reading it this morning. The other book that I want to talk about, and which is going to remain a favorite for me for a really long time, is Mohanaswamy by Vasudendhra, and it's been translated by Rashmi Tedral. So this book, Vasudendhra came out as a gay person only when he was in his 40s, and I think this book might have kind of helped him. It's not really autobiographical, but this book, from the interviews that I've read of his, he says how this book helped him to come out as a gay person. So the book actually navigates the life of a gay person, the taunts that are associated with it, the superstitions as to why a child could become gay, on the upbringing and the position that the couple had sex in. It's ridiculous, but yes, this is how people think, and that is really portrayed well in the book. The other thing that stands out for me in the book is about the lack of companionship. It does not matter what your sexual orientation is, we all seek companionship. And I think this book is about a journey of this person in finding companionship and in finding companionship with himself and kind of exploring himself, a journey, so to speak. I really loved this book. It's it's written in extremely simple language. It's translated from the Kannada to English, and you must read this book. It's such a simple, and this character is so charming. But sometimes he's this clingy person, and you just want to whack him in his head and say, "You're better than that. You deserve better than these people." If he were my friend, I would have done that. So that's the kind of feel I got from this book. The other book that I want to talk about is, I read this last month, and I've mentioned this in my bookstagram post. This is written in tears by Arupa Patangia Kalita and translated from the Assamese by Renjita Biswas. In fact, Renjita Biswas actually won a Sahitya Akademi award for translation for this particular book. So again, this is actually a collection of short stories, and most of these stories are set in Assam when there are riots happening, there is civil turbulence happening, there are murders, there are kidnappings, and some of the stories are very eerie. Some portray evil, some portray, again, the differences, how differences between cultures and between people are fanned, and riots are caused for political reasons, and how that actually affects the lives of everyday people, the everyday lives of people, of ordinary people, what they go through, and what do they gain or lose? Do they really gain anything at all by it? These are some of the questions that kind of come to your mind when you read these stories. There are some stories which are really, really eerie, strike you. The horror of it strikes you. Some are heart-wrenching. The waste of life, the psychological impact of that, very, very well done. And again, like Moustache, but more so as far as language goes, the Assamese geographical landscape, the flora and fauna, kind of just pop out at you. I've never been to Assam, but the author and the translator have painted this picture of Assam so well. And some things I was so curious about that I was, Googling and finding out about this food, this particular weave, vegetables grown over there, lifestyles. So it really kindles your curiosity that way. And since it's a fairly short anthology, it allows for that curiosity to be explored. In Moustache, you are going to find it difficult because the book is a fairly big book and a more difficult read. You would get lost in the book itself, just as people would get lost in the Vembanadu Kayal. Boating in the Vembanadu Kayal at night was really dangerous. You could get lost in the canals. So you would get lost in the book amidst the number of characters and the incidents that happen over there. That will not happen to you in written in tears. You will love the book. It's heart-wrenching to read. So these are three of my recommendations for translated books. Of course, there are a lot of international books that have been translated into English, and I could go on and on about it, but I particularly chose these three. Do let me know what you think of them. Thank you so much.